So, thank you everyone for coming back actually, despite the good weather and despite the late hour. We still have a couple of interested people here in the room. As I said earlier, I'm very happy to welcome Christian Hübel here, the strategic manager of the city of Mannheim. And I told you a little bit already earlier, and I said that I was very impressed when I saw the efforts that the city of Mannheim is already engaging in terms of sustainable development. I was invited to the SDG workshop and I was very happy to see what's happening in our city here. I think you are giving us a little overview of these activities and maybe also of the challenges that you're facing as a city to engage with stakeholders. I think that was a very interesting point that you talked about at the SDG workshop. I'm very much looking forward to this guest lecture. Maybe you can also reflect about the content based on what we have discussed so far in the lecture on corporate social responsibilities and transfer it to the level of a city and the management of a city. So thank you very much for coming to the classroom, and the stage is yours.
Thanks a lot. Okay, you can hear me? Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Professor Edinger-Schorns. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for inviting me here to tell you something about the theme of sustainability and the strategic planning of Mannheim. First of all, I give you an overview over the agenda. First, I want to give you an overview about the framework where we are in, the role of the cities and managing a city administration. The second is, from this theme, we made a Mannheim Model, which is a role model for other city administrations, not only in Germany. Then I want to take a little look to the thing of the international charters and the obstacles of implementing them, because there are a lot of obstacles for implementing them. Then we give you an overview about the mission statement process, where we have a big participation process with over 2,500 people of the city of Mannheim. Then about the public value in municipal enterprises and about the discussion in the city of Mannheim with the common good economy, and there we also have the relationship to the corporate social responsibility. Yeah, role of city and managing a city administration. Wellington Webb, the former mayor of Colorado, he made the quote that the 19th century was a century of empires, the 20th century was a century of nation states, and at the moment in the 21st century we will be a century of cities. And as you see here, the city networks are rising. We have Metropolis, we have Eurocities, the Global Task Force. All the cities all over the world are coming together to make networks because they want to be stronger, not against, but in partnership with the national states, but also with the United Nations. And so the role of city is rising. At the moment, more of the half of the people are living in city. More of about 80% of the economic output comes from these urban areas, but also the most pollution, about 75% of the CO2 emissions, are coming also from the city. So the cities are the place where you have to deal with the global problems, and so the city administrations have to look how to deal with these things. At the moment, as you see, we're living in the such-called VUCA world. It's a lot of volatility, fast change without clear predictable trend of patterns. You see the knowledge is doubling every year. We have a lot of uncertainty in the world. We have disruptive changes in the economy, but also social disruptive exchanges. We have a very complexity in the world, and everybody's looking for the simple answers. And that's one thing why populism at the moment is very famous all over the world, because everybody is looking for how does this function, where is our future, what should we act how. And so we see that the complexity is rising, and then if you see there are simple answers to complex questions which doesn't work, like Einstein said, we see a lot of believers are there, and therefore the populism is rising, and you see there's a lot of ambiguity, and at the moment not only ambiguity, we are also dealing with the thing of fake news or the alternative reality. And so you see, this is very complex, and we have to deal with all the things which are dealing every citizen here also. Yeah, complexity is also in a city administration. We have different logics and different systems in a community. You have on the one hand the political system. You have advisory councils, but you also have different parties. And if you see the different parties, everybody wants to rise the economy. One said, okay, therefore we have to give them money or we have to give infrastructure, and the other says, no, the market will hail it all, so do nothing. And so you have different logistics in the city parliament, and these are very difficult to cope with. You also have a city administration which is managed, but in these city administrations you have different units, and all these units also have their different logics. For instance, the culture logic is another logic like the economical logic, and the economical logic is another logic like the educational logic. And so you have to bring them all together. If you do it not, everybody is fighting against each other and is looking for the best for his only theme, the best for education, the best for economy, or the best for the culture. And this is a very problematic thing, because if you do nothing, everybody is looking for stakeholders and for corporations, and there's always a fight about the best resources and about the best solutions. And last but not least, you have the city society, which is based on the citizens, but also on the media and the companies and associations, and they also have different logicals into their organizations. And if you see, all these three systems are making action in these action fields, for instance, in urban planning, or in social affairs, or in cultural affairs. And so everybody is looking for the best solution, but mostly best solution in his point of view. And this makes it very difficult, because it's always like a marketplace, and you have to bring all these actors together, have to look for a common theme or a common solution, and then take the action. And this is very difficult for a city administration, but also for citizens, but also for the political parties. And so you see, it's very complex. We not only have a complex world in total, we also have a complex world in a city like ours in Mannheim. Therefore, like a city is organized, we have different frameworks. For instance, up to the 80s, we have the framework of the regular municipality. It means that the city administration is responsible for fulfilling the law and the orders. But it was also a system where we said, this is the administration and the citizens are here. So it was very hierarchic. And then you saw in the 80s that because a lot of citizens said that this cannot be, and you also have economic disruptions with the Thatcherism and the Reaganomics, that they say city administrations are not competitive. We have to look and bring into it more the point of view of enterprises, of privatizations. Then it was disrupted once more, once less. And then we were coming to a service-orientated municipality, and we were always looking for what's best for the client, but also are we competitive with our solutions to the solutions of the private sector, or how can we implement private solutions into the city administrations. And therefore there was a theory which is called the new public management, which was bringing more privatization and more efficiency into city administrations. At the moment, we have a lot of discussion about participations. You see that the trust in the political system, in the representative democracy, is decreasing. And so we have to look for how to get more participations into the dialogue between the people and the administration. And so everybody at the moment is looking for a citizen-oriented municipality to say, how can we create our community together? And therefore, several instruments used. Some are working better and some are working less, but you always have to try and looking for the best solution so that you can create your city community together, and you say, okay, what's the best for all of us and not only for one group. This also means that the spirit and the framework and the mindset of the city administration has to change. No? In the earlier days, it was more like drifting into the future. When you're working in the city administration, it was working or being like in a nutshell on the ocean. You were sitting there doing your job and doing your files, but no matter where the wind was coming, okay, it's going to the left, or there's a new legal order, so it's going to the right. You're always wearing passive. And then you said, okay, this doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. You have to have and create more impact and effectiveness. And so we were more looking for how can we adapt the future. And this was more like living or sailing in a sailing boat that you say, okay, what development we will have in our forecast and how we can use it or how we can adopt the city administration and different units to this new wind of the oceans. And at the moment we are more like in a steamboat that we say city administrations have to make the future. We have to look how can we build the best and sustainable society and the best sustainable future for our city, and this means we have to be more active. We don't have to be passive, we have to be active, we have to set goals, and then we have to look how we get stakeholders involved in it so that we together make a better future for the city of Mannheim. And this is a thing which is related to all city administrations. Some are still in the adapting zone, but a lot of these city administrations are at the making the future zone. And we try to be one of the forerunners in Germany. So we create the so-called Mannheim Model, and the motivation behind such a big change reform was a motivation like Dr. Kurz, the mayor of Mannheim, said, it is we have 3 experiences made in the last years. The one thing is results do not count. This means we are doing a lot, but we are not looking if we are successful in it. The other thing is we have less integrative action. We are always looking in our several silos. In the economical silo or in the social silo, we have to look more to get an integrated action for achieving more together. And the other thing is mostly the political mission was lost behind the philosophy of a service position. And as you know, with a big change reform of the administration, you're not winning elections. And it's always hard when you're doing a change. And so why he did this, he said, for achieving the best sustainable future for our city, I need one of the best administrations in Germany, and therefore we have to make a lot of change in our administration. And this was a hard process, which lasted about 8 years, but at the end we were successful. We were always trying to look for the, as you know, the economical cycle of plan to check act in a regular, not seldomly or randomly like some units are doing. And so we were always looking what we have planned, what we do for this, and then after 1 year we are looking and checking it with the councillors. Have we achieved this? Yes, so we go further. Or didn't we achieve our plans and goals? Then we have to look why. And this is a standardized process, and therefore we are always looking in all of our units to look after plan, chew, check, act. Therefore we copied the model from the industry that we said, okay, we have the resources, we're having a process, and with this process we're liking to make products like a performance. But you see the city administrations usually are input driven. They said, okay, we give money to culture, we give money to education, we give money to the suburb of Jungbusch. But the thing is, what do we achieve with this money? And we don't only want to have an output that we said, okay, we gave money and they were building a school or they were looking for teachers. We have to say, okay, is there an outcome? And if we are having teachers there, are the pupils at the end better at school or are they not better at school? And that's the thing, what we want to achieve. We want to achieve an outcome and not only an output. Therefore, we created a strategy with 8 strategic goals, where we said, okay, where we want to stay in the next 8 years. This is the strategy of 2010, which was the first strategy for Mannheim. And so we said, okay, we want to strengthen urbanity, for instance. Why? Because we are the center of the region and we want to be also the center of the regions in the next 5, 10 or 20 years. But we want to be an urban city which is socially and ecological balanced. This means there were discussions also in the city council, do we need more academics? Yes, we need more academics, but when we attract people for living here, then we say, okay, we not only attract academics, we also attract people who want to work at the police or who want to work as a waitress or whatever. because Mannheim always worked best when the society was balanced out. We were also looking for the theme of tolerance. On the one hand, it is a big tradition in Mannheim that we say tolerance is in our DNA. When the city was founded in 1607, the Count sent it to all over Europe, his ambassadors, and said, hey, here at the Rhine and the Neckar, there's a new town founded. Please come from all over Europe here to Mannheim. No matter what color, no matter what religion, come here and look for the prosperity of the city together. So it's in our DNA that people are coming from outside here to Mannheim. On the other thing, we see in 2009 from a lot of research of Richard Florida, who is an American scientist, that he said that the regions are very prosperity when they have a tolerance society. Because he says with the tolerant society, you are looking and attracting the creative class, and the creative class is for the innovation of a city very, very important, as I see from our studies. And so you see, okay, we have the DNA, and now we want to attract also people, and we also want to develop the talents in the city, and therefore we need to have to look on our tolerance, which in the fewer years sometimes was only a moral theme. And now we said, okay, tolerance is not only moral, it's also important for our economic development. With these 8 strategic goals, we said, okay, we want to build our sustainable future, and therefore we also build little balanced scorecards. And what I want to show you is, as you look to the red items, then you see on the topic the 8 strategic goals. And then we were going to the departments and the units and said, okay, what you can do to support these strategic goals. For instance, we have the strategic goal to increase the educational success of the children, the young people, and the adults living in Mannheim. And therefore we said, for instance, in the specialized area of the youth department, every child has a sufficient command of German up and starting school to enable him or her or to understood what is being taught. On the one hand, very simple. Then we have the key data and the target values, and we have the measures and instruments like language learning. What is the difference? The difference is, in the earlier days, we were always looking on the measures and the instruments, so that we said we are giving money for language lessons, and then it's good. And then we make an evaluation. We do several evaluations, but this was very hard for us in the results with the University of Heidelberg. And then they said to us, okay, you have one target group who has got language lessons, and you have another with no language lessons. And both pupils are socially equal. And then we see that with the language lessons, there are no better results than without. This was hard because we're giving a lot of money into teachers, and we said from the hypothesis, okay, giving money into teachers and then teaching young children the German language, this will have an effect. And then we see it doesn't have much effect. And so what we do is to take a shift that we said sometimes we have to change the instruments, we have to look, are the measures right, because the focus has to be on the goal. And this is for a lot a strange and very hard mind shift, because they said, okay, then every time I have to look what I'm doing and what I'm achieving. And this means sometimes when you're doing things over years and years, and now you see, okay, I wasn't successful, it's very hard for ourselves too. But we have to look for it, because everybody wants to achieve his goals, and therefore we have to focus on the goals and not focus on the instruments. Because focus on the instruments means we're looking for an output-orientated administrations, and we want to be outcome-orientated, always looking for the goals. So we were building a management system which should support the achieving more together of all units. On the one hand, you have an objective system with a strategy. On the other hand, you have to invest into the people. You have to invest into management dialogues, into guidelines for management, but also in a lot of communication processes. And on the last thing, that's simple, you have a management information system where all the data gets into it. Yeah, and therefore we always were evaluating the old strategy, that we are always looking every year, okay, we have a goal like strengthen urbanity, and then we are looking for, is the centrality rating of 150% decreasing or increasing? This means when you have the same money in the town like the people are earning, then you have 100%. If you're center of the region and more money is coming into town, then you're above 100%. At the moment we have 150%, so that we can see that we are a central part of the region. Our sister city, Ludwigshafen, at the moment has a centrality rating of 95%. And so you see the difference, but you have to work every month and every year on it, and you have to face the results after 1 year. Yeah, so what's the governance model? In a simple way, we have the mission statement, including the strategic goals. Then we have key performance indicators, and beyond this, we have management target systems for all the departments. We don't have this for la pour la, we have this for achieving the goals on the strategic level, and this means building a sustainable future for the Mannheim people. Yeah, and therefore we were awarded with the German Sustainability Award, which was good for the people working in the administrations, which was very hard sometimes, but also we were proof that we are on the right way with our change reform, and so we can see, okay, when we want to achieve sustainable future in this complex world, we have at the moment a good system which is working. And this means when a system is running, you can change where you're going. And this is the thing at the moment what we want to do. International charters and implementing them. Everybody knows at the moment, if you're going on like we are doing so, we need 2 or 3 Earths, and the problem is everybody knows it, and less nation state or cities are reacting. Why? Sometimes you have the classical obstacles, there is a conflict about the national interest and the global goals, that you see, okay, climate decree is bad and the rising of the sea level also, but I'm living in, let's say, Switzerland or wherever, so what does it mean to me? The other thing is sometimes you have a big tension of financial and private interests, that you say, okay, for the climate and for the whole, we have to do things, but it costs working places, and perhaps then we have less taxes, and this means we cannot afford housing or whatever, so there's a lot of tension in it. The also is that sometimes you're signing charters and you say, okay, we've signed it as a state, it's a letter of intent, a memorandum of understanding, we are living with it, but clear action seldomly happens after then. Because clear action means commitment, and there is no legal way to bring the nation states into fulfillment of these charters. And sometimes when you see the reports from the charters, sometimes they are voluntary reports from the nation states, and when you're looking deeply into reports, then sometimes you see very prosaic, we are working on it, we're working on this, on that, but you don't see really clear effectives or results or impacts, because this is the thing what you have to work on, and this happens too seldom. And you have a conflict of resources, as everywhere, also in our town, and then you have to decide where you put the resources, the people, or the money into it. The local implementation has almost the same obstacles, and sometimes even worse. For a lot of people in a city, but also in the administrations, international charters are coming from somewhere out of space, that they said, okay, sustainable development goals, fight against poverty, what does it have to do with us? Perhaps it's important for countries in the south or in Asia or whatever, but not for us. Or let's talk about the theme of sanitary. We have here drinking water, we just talked about it, no? For other people that don't have drinking waters, there are 1,000 people in one house and they don't have drinking waters, so what does it have to do with us? But every charter is looking that you say, okay, what's good for the whole world, and where you're standing, and what you can do for help others, or what you can do as a little part to make the world better, a little mosaic stone in your town, which helps also others. The other thing is sometimes the global commitments are very formulated abstract. so that in the city administrations you don't know how to cope with it. What does it mean for us when you say we are looking for the gender equality? Yeah, it also has to do something with us. At the moment today we have the Equal Pay Day. Women and men are not paid equal at the moment. So we also have an issue here in our town. We have to cope with this. But you have to concretize it, and sometimes the charters are only on a level, as I said, we want to have gender equality. And then you have to say and translate it, what does it mean for our city? The other thing is, sometimes you have in the city administrations the so-called lonely wolf or lonely warriors who are fighting for a charter, who are fighting for sustainability or for the women's equality or whatever. And they said, okay, I'm the duty man or the duty woman for this charter, and they are running through the administrations, and all the big units are saying, okay, that's a big theme. If you want to make here a goal, please give me money. And then they say, I don't have money. You have to put it into your logic and your success. And they said, okay, but I don't have the money for it. And my main goal is more working on the Mannheim people and the main thing like building a street or looking for jobs. But they don't have in mind usually what does it mean building a street for all the Mannheim people. And this doesn't mean only making a street. It has to also implement the thinking of how, for instance, women are walking through a street. It's another way than walking a man through a street. It depends on the thing of light or other things. And also, if you said if you're going through a street and you are a man or a woman who has a wheelchair, whatever, what does it mean? And so you have to bring all the things into your local duties, and this is very hard because it's a conflict of resources. And if you don't put it first in your budget plan, then it's very probably for the people to fulfill it. And then sometimes you have national plans which are not addressing the cities. They are only on the national level. They're doing the things, but they are not addressing the cities indirect. And so you don't get help from the national plans or from the ministries to implement international charters. We have the luck that our process of implementing charters is supported by the Ministry of Economic Development. They give us money because they said we are a forerunner and we are looking for a role model for implementing international charters so that they have an impact. The thing is always from global to local. As I said, it doesn't matter whether it's a declaration of cultural diversity, the climate protection plan or whatever. You have on the level of the United Nations the view for the whole earth. Then you say, okay, what's good for the world, what needs to be done, and then you're making a charter, and this is signed by the national state or by the cities, but the thing is really how you implement it on the local level. And so we have the good thing that we have a strategic management system that we say, okay, it's not a part of the lonely wolf or of a party. We bring it directly integrated in our management system, which is still running. So we are looking for the global charters. We are looking what this means for obligation for the city of Mannheim, and then we directly transform it into the city units and the city administration. And at the end, you have a local implementation in an integrated system, and you're still in the plan, do, check, act circle, so that you can see after 1 year, okay, we signed the charter, is there a result or is there no result? Because we don't want to sign charters only for a prosaic way or for being a moral city. We want to have results and impacts and effects, and therefore we need the proof at the end of the year, achieved, yes or no. Yeah, at the moment, everybody is looking for the transmission of the Sustainable Development Goals. I think you know them all, from no poverty over life on land to the partnerships and for the goals. And therefore, it's the same thing. Everybody is signing it and says, okay, we want to fulfill the goals. But the main thing is, what does it mean to us? What does it mean to our city? Every city is different. And how we get real results, or not only a prosaic report at the end of the year. At the moment, we say, okay, we're signing the Sustainable Development Goals, and with the strategic management system, we were instantly able to see, okay, you have indicators, for instance, for no poverty, And we said we are still having this indicator, like the guaranteed minimum rate or the SGB rate of people unfit for work. We're still monitoring it. And so it's easier for us, because for other cities they said, okay, how should I monitoring it? And monitoring is the one thing. The other thing is, after monitoring, are you using this information for taking action? Not only knowing it, but also saying, okay, with this information, my action is in the next budget plan, this or that. And we also have it for the quality of education. We still had it in our system when from the national state come the advice that we say, okay, for quality education, the guaranteeing inclusive, fair, and high quality education is a life learning for all, and you have to be measured like the number of all the nursery places or school child there, or the advanced secondary school transition rate. So we're still working with it and we are used to it. For other city administrations I talked to, they said, oh God, these numbers, these indicators, how I should cope with them. And this means I have to cooperate with my partner in the education department or with my partner in the social department. For them, it's a lot of new work, which is complex, and they have to change a lot. And for us, it was implementing it in a running system or just getting it out of the running system. And we also try to refer to Chancellor Merkel that we say the SDGs have always 3 levels. And the first level is the easiest. It's always how or what you're doing to fulfill the SDGs in your city. And every city is still working on poverty or on education or whatever. And then you have to say, okay, you're still working on it. It's not like something from outer space or what the UN wants you. You're still working on things which are applied by the SDGs. And for instance here, when you see no poverty, you see what we are doing for it in the city. We have a financial support of jobs, education help, or we have a local labor market program. The second thing is, when you said you want to achieve the SDGs, what is the relation of our doing to others in the world? And this means when you see the SDG 1, no poverty, we are always looking what we are doing and what affects others. And when we said we have to buy new stones for our restoration of the Planken, then we don't say we want the cheapest stones, because the cheapest stones means they are made by children work. We said, okay, we want to have stones where the workers are paid like the International Labour Organization said, for a minimum wage. And we don't want to have stones which are made by children work. And this means we have to look on fair trade and other things, so that not our doing is affecting others in a negative way. And the third thing is, that's the king class, how we can help others to fulfill their sustainable development goals. And we have, for instance, a project in the city of Kilis, which is at the Turkish and Syrian border, and there is a big refugee camp. And so we are bringing with one of our schools where you can learn skills in the thing of barbers or cooking or whatever, that we said, okay, we bring the teachers from our school to Kilis, also with money from the Ministry of Development and Economical Affairs. And then we said, okay, these teachers are teaching the refugees in Kilis while they're waiting for going back how to be a barber, how to be a cook, or how to be other things, so that they are educated and at the end they get a job title. And so when they return back after the war, they said, okay, I have here a job title, I can work instantly as X, Y, Z. These are very seldom projects, but we do it because we said how we can help others. This also comes back to us again, and we always trying to fulfill our duty in making the world a little bit better. Yeah, mission statement process. As you see, we are at the moment at a citizen-orientated administration, and so we also look how to get the people more involved into this process. As I told you, in the Mannheim Model, we have the strategy with the indicators and department target systems, which sounds very technical, but it helps us to fulfill our goals. And now, after 8 years, we were looking, okay, we have to renew our strategy and how we do this. And so the Mayor Kurz said, hey, let's take the SDG as the overarch and look what does this mean for our city and how we can implement the SDG as a role model in our city with the people living here in this city. And so we are looking to combine it, the old strategy and the implementation of the SDGs, so that at the end, with this big participation process, we have the Mannheim specific goals, the Agenda 2030 for Mannheim, and which is the most important thing, we directly bring it into the budget plan. We don't have a resolution or a paper that we said this is the vision. You bring it directly into the budget plan, and this is the main instrument for German municipalities to fulfill their goals. And if you're not in the budget plan, you're only in a moral plan. And only what counts is the money, what you bring into the people and into the administration for the several units. And so for us it's very important that at the end it's combined with this budget plan. We started a very intertwining process. When the Agenda 2013 started, we were involved in the World Urban Campaign. That's the campaign for stakeholders in cities from UN Habitat, where they want to get involved the city society. And so we applied for Urban Thinkers Campus, and we were one of 25 Urban Thinker Campus all over the world, the only German city that we said, okay, what does it mean to implement an Agenda 2030? And for us in this Urban Thinker Campus, two things were important. The one thing was the role of the cities. How can they fulfill their role in a global world? And the other thing was the migration. And at this time, the discussion about migration was focused on refugees. And we said it can't be focused on refugees because migration and globalization is everywhere. And we said the whole world is nomadic. You have globalization and a nomadic world in goods, in financial products, in ideas, but also in people. And for us, it's normal that you go to the theater and you're listening to American open singer. Huh? That's normal. Or when you're going to Roche, that you see that there are working people from China or from India. That's normal, because we are an international city, and so these normal migration and normal things, we have to put it more on the point of view, and we don't have to be focused on the refugees, because migration is everywhere. Everybody is traveling around the world without thinking about it, and everybody is looking for ideas from other countries or watching television scenes and films, and nobody's thinking about it. And so we said, okay, we have to think about it as a normal way of being globalized and of being concentrated not only on the refugees problem when we are talking about globalization, migration, or others, because everything is nomadic. The Mannheim Manifesto was brought then on the stage of the United Nations from Mayor Kurz. He presented it on Habitat 3 in Quito. He discussed the focus on the role of the cities, but also on the nomadic world. And then after then, there was a new urban agenda signed from the states in Quito, and then it was coming back to the cities. And we had another Urban Thinkers Campus where we said, okay, what does it mean now for us? So we said this is the start for the mission statement process for implementing the sustainable development goals in Mannheim. And this process was also brought back to the international states on the World Urban Forum, that we said, okay, our experiences for implementing charters and for implementing the new urban agenda in discussion with the people was this and this and this. And so we brought it back to the international state so that we get a more interlinking in the thing of what the United Nations want and what is possible for implementing in city, but also what is successful in cities and nation states. This process lasted over 1 year. As I said, 2,500 citizens were directly involved, but we also have a lot of opinion polls, and we were also in some fairs or markets or in the pedestrian zone, but directly in the discussion process, 2,500 people, and these 2,500 people brought 1,500 new ideas into the projects and the process that they said, okay, my city in 2030 should be green or more sustainable or more educated, etc. Yeah, and for instance, for some results at the May market, which is a usual fair, we had an exhibition, and every day we had a several theme on the Sustainable Development Goals. And for instance, what come back from the citizens, they said, okay, we want to have security and well-being in the public space. That's for us a big theme. Or we want to have local politicians that live in Mannheim and talking about Mannheim as Mannheimers and not living somewhere else. This was a big discussion because they said only if someone is living here, he understands the problems, what we are facing here. Then we have a lot of events by third parties, about 22 third parties. And what they worked out was, for instance, provide affordable housing, which is a big theme in all cities all over the world. Then peaceful and inclusive societies, or, for instance, prevent precarious employment conditions. And in the end, we had the big dialogue with the citizens, and we also experimented with inviting citizens randomly. Usually when you said here is a participation process, always the same people are coming. And so we say, okay, how can we attract more people from the city to come here and discuss with us, which have never been there before. And so we choose them randomly, and the mayor was writing them a letter and said, you were chosen, please come and discuss with us. And so 250 people were coming from all over the societies, and we see it was another kind of discussion. Because usually in participation processes, you have people who are well known as people who can focus on their object or lobbying, or sometimes the people are coming only for things that they said, I don't want this or that. That's okay. But how you come to the people that said, I want to have a sustainable Mannheim, and this means we have to look for more sustainability in looking for our green areas, or for how we are educating our children. You have to look for the people who are thinking more in a positive, constructive way. And with this instrument, we get a lot of them. And then at the end, we have now, from the Sustainable Development Goals, our new strategic goals, which were approved and legitimized by the City Council last week. And at the moment we say, okay, implementing the sustainable goals means for us, Mannheim guarantees educational justice and prevents poverty. The social and cultural participation of all people of Mannheim is guaranteed. Or Mannheim is characterized by an urban society based on solidarity and is model for living together in metropolises. The people of Mannheim recognize the equal rights of diverse human identities and lifestyles. And you see, when we now have these new strategic goals, it's not only a commitment in a moral way, we bring it directly into the city administration. Now we are going into the planning process for the next budget plan. And from May to July, we do a lot of workshops with our units, and then we say, okay, what does these new strategic goals mean for you? What can you do in your goals to support them, and what you need on resources? And then after 1 year, we have to look for the results, discuss it with the City Council, and say, okay, is there an improvement in the democracy or in the health or well-being? And so we are in a discussion in a standardized way, and not only when a political theme is rising up. Yeah, coming to the public value. The public value in enterprises, as I said, in the 70s, 80s, with saturation and the Reaganomics, we have the new public management. We were rising into privatization and looking and bringing in more elements from the private sector into the administration. This was okay, but as everybody knows, financial value means financial interest, and at the moment we have less public value and less public interest. For instance, we have enterprises which have a duty, for instance, in selling advertisement areas. And they said, okay, for the enterprise it's good when it is selling a lot of advertisement area. That's good for the enterprise of the city. On the other hand, when they're selling a lot of enterprise and a lot of advertisement areas, the whole city is full with advertisement. And this is not in a public value that the people said, I don't want to walk through the city, see no trees, and I only see advertisement. But then you have a problem, because legally, the enterprise has the duty to sell this area. And so the thing is always how to get this thing into these enterprises without being legally in a conflict. This also is when you see we have an enterprise, the GBG, which has about 20,000 flats in Mannheim. Why? We said we need these flats for giving the people a good housing for an affordable price. Most of the flats, about 90%, are less than €7 per square meter, and that's a value. We think that. In other cities, the discussion 10 years ago was, we don't see this value. These selling flats, which we own, brings us money into our budget, and so we can use this money for other things. And you are under pressure if you don't bring out this public value, and so we are looking also for bringing up this public value again, also when we have enterprises where we are giving work to people who have problems finding work because they are ill or they have other problems, then we say, okay, they can work only 60%, but for the 60% it's worth it, and so they can work on their own money. But for others, it's not worth it. They said, okay, that's the public interest, I don't want to pay for it, my interest is the financial interest. And so we have to bring out more this public value, and so we're getting more engaged in this theme, which is also a little bit new in Germany. What we try, we have our strategy, which is a strategy for the city of Mannheim. And we now try to combine it with the target agreements, with the management and the economic plan, so that we say, okay, together we are developing a strategy development planning, which on the one hand pays off for the enterprise and their plan, and on the other hand gives us support for the strategy of the municipality. And so we are now trying to focus on goals, and we tried, for instance, to have with our enterprises, at the moment we have the enterprises which are 100% owned by the city, and we said, okay, you're focused on the financial theme, what you can do to support, for instance, the strategic goals. And 2 years ago, we made some workshops, and then, for instance, the Mannheim Graveyard company said, hey, I can support the strategic goal tolerance, because when I said I'm allowing Muslim people to bury their people here due to their religions, I can pay to the tolerance goal, and this means every citizen is able to be buried due to his religious specifications. And this means they invested in the infrastructure, and so they are a part of the whole system, and not only a company which says we are selling bury ground. No? So it's more bringing the enterprises back to supporting a strategy and focusing more on the public value. The same thing is with the National Theatre. There we said, okay, they have a goal like the program and the repertoire reflects diversity and dynamics of the city society. They can play everything. They can play Schiller, they can play Mozart in the opera, whatever, but they say, okay, to support the society and the diversity, we are making projects with people with a migration background or with citizens who are playing and acting in this National Theatre, which is also unusual in Germany. But we're bringing them more and involving them more into a whole integrated strategy. And for instance, in the waste management, 20 years ago they said, okay, the street has to be clean, that's okay. But then we say, okay, what you can do for an ecological urbanity. And then they said, okay, we set us the goal, the way the waste is disposed or recycled in an environmentally friendly and customer-oriented manner. And this means that they have to look how they're working out for getting away the rubbish from the street, so that they are not only clean, but they are also recycled, environmentally friendly. And this means a shift in the mindset. And we are trying this more and more, getting into the other enterprises. At the moment, we have in the MVV, that's the energy company, which is owned by 50% of the city, and in the GBG Mannheim, that's the housing enterprises, they have a reporting with CSR, but no other has. And so we have to look for getting more CSR reporting into the enterprises, but also perhaps getting a new reporting system which is referring to the public value or the sustainable development goals. We tried also to bring this into our mission statement development process. There we had a special lab for social entrepreneurship and public welfare economy, and one of the results were raise public awareness of social enterprises, but also fair trade or localization of products. That you see, we're always looking for an integrated way so that we see, okay, on the one hand, we want to be sustainable. What does it mean? Do we have, for instance, a workshop? How can we combine it? And how we get results into the new way of managing the administration or managing the enterprises. And then in the mission statement, at the moment, we had also 3 sentences about this corporate social responsibility in the economy, and we have indicator examples for us that we say, okay, we want to look for rising the number of companies publishing public economy balance sheets, or the number of entrepreneurs surveyed for whom sustainable is a major concern. So we are bringing it all into the systems that we say, not only the administration, but also our enterprises are looking for making this world, or first of all this community, but at the end this world a sustainable and a better world. The common good. Why we started to reflect on the common good, as you see it on the public value. 5 years ago we said, okay, money, measures, indicators in the usual way are not enough. And so we try to start discussions that the people were rethinking is. And so for instance, we start with Petra Pinsler, a discussion about more and more is not enough, that we said what we can do against this growth mania, which is always getting bigger, getting faster, whatever. We have to reflect on it, what it means to the whole system. And so this discussion started 5 years ago, and then we also were looking for, do you know Gina Schöler? Gina Schöler is a student from the university, and she started a project, it's called Ministry of Happiness, 5 years ago. And she said, I'm always looking for the happiness of the people and how they get them happy. For some people it was, what is this? This is very simple, do we need this? But if you reflect on it, she is now also supporting and consulting big firms like SAP, BASF or whatever, to bringing more happiness into the people and also in the indirections. And as you know, when enterprises are looking for this, they also have in mind what does it mean for me for working on my efforts and my success. And if enterprises are convinced that this has success for them, then I think for us it's a duty to say how we bring more happiness into the people of Mannheim. And this means what makes the people happy. And it's not always being faster, bigger, whatever. It's asking the people what makes you happy, how you, when you're building areas new or whatever, you're looking for what makes them happy. Is it a new chair or is it no chair? Just involving this, because we think that when the people are happier, the people are healthier, and then the relationships in the community are more successful, because everybody's looking for the other person, what he's doing and how he can help him. And so in an early stage, we tried to get involved into these themes. For some of my colleagues, when you're going on a congress and you're discussing about happiness, they are laughing. I said, okay, you can laugh, but in 5 or 10 years, I will make a bet that you always also will deal with this theme, because it's more than money and it's more than words. It's about the feeling and how you get a better feeling for your citizens in your administration and your city. We also were looking for social progress index, which means It's not only about what people are earning, but also how they are treated, how inclusive is a city, and how equal. And so we are always looking for different measurements for developing our city, and always looking brighter, and not only focused on some indicator which are standard, like the amount of money or how much people are living here. We're always looking more for quality indicators. And therefore we tried to get in a project which is called the Common Good Matrix, which is a new balance sheet focused on the studies of Christian Hübel. We are trying it now with 4 enterprises that we say, could this be a new balance sheet? There was also a big discussion with the councillors. Do we need this? And is it perhaps a balance sheet which is not economical friendly and perhaps costs us in the end working places? But said, okay, let's try it for 2 years, and after then we are discussing the results. And the Common Good Matrix is more focused on the thing of how are dealing the enterprises with the environmental sustainability or with the human dignity, and not always focusing on looking at the end of the year how much money we have earned with it. So we are looking for it, we are dealing with it, and in 2 years we will see was it successful for us or not, or perhaps there is another system. And at the moment a lot of people are working on alternative balance sheets. The public value scorecard, which comes also from the Common Good, is always giving you an help when you're doing something that you asking yourself, is it decent? Does it allow you for positive experience, or is it politically acceptable? And not only looking for which is the best way of making money. We are always looking for other issues bringing into our decisions, and this is a thing that you said, okay, is it helpful? We are testing it, and perhaps in 1 year we said, okay, we roll it out to the whole enterprises, or we see no, it was not successful, then put it away and try something other. And at the moment we know that a lot of enterprises also in the German stock market are looking for a new balance sheet of the future, because they were seeing that the discussion about the public value, about the impact on the world and the environmental is more getting in focus for the customers. And so they are looking for a new balance sheets, which means you're not only looking for the financial profit, you're also looking what is the value of this enterprise for the society. Are we giving people a working place or whatever? And the other things is what ecological effects we have with the goods we are producing. So there is at the moment a lot of dynamic in it, and perhaps the disruptions we will see, but at the moment we see that this theme of looking for alternative measurements is in the focus of a lot of enterprises. Yeah. Conclusion, I tried. As I told you in the further 50 minutes, the role of cities in solving or addressing global challenges is rising, and this means that the administrations have to be active, they have to look for a good governance, but not for la pour la, but for achieving the sustainable of the city, and this means the administrations have to be active, participative, and impact orientated, which is not easy because we are all socialized in another way. So it has to be a mind shift in the people working in the administrations, but for us there is no other way for being sustainable. The third thing, public value is rising within the administrations, but we also see it within the private sector, and so we see there is a dynamic in it, and we need it for solving the problems of the world. And only together we can build a sustainable future. And so we try to make a little bit a sustainable partner for this partnership, and helping others to achieve their sustainable development goals, but also in our city, so that we see and hope in 2030 we are looking back and said, okay, we save the planet, we save the world, and so the future is also sustainable for our children. Thank you for your attention.